to get started. Thank you all for coming and welcome to the St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center. A couple of housekeeping notes here. How many are museum members now? Perfect, okay. If you're not a member, be advised that after tonight's presentation, you're welcome to go down to the gift shop and you can apply the admission price that you had tonight to a museum membership. Now with your museum membership, you can attend all of our speaker series for free. So just keep that in mind. And if you like coming to the museum a lot, also free unlimited visits to the museum comes with your membership as well. So just keep that in mind. Coming up in April, we'll have another speaker presentation on the New Madrid Fault with geologist, paleontologist Mike Fix. He's here for our fossil days, fossil identification days a lot. And he's going to have a very interesting talk on the New Madrid earthquakes. And it is an S. There were several earthquakes at that time, not just the one. We'll also have a speaker presentation on Kaskaskia Island, so that'll be interesting too. So hope you avail yourself of our activities here at the museum. We'd like to thank Dave Weber from St. Genevieve Abstract Company for sponsoring tonight's presentation. Doug Bader has been a surveyor since 1997 and has received many professional accolades along the way, including Surveyor of the Year. I think that deserves a hand. He's had great appreciation of surveying history in our immediate area for some time, and we'll find out here tonight. So please welcome Gerald Duck Bader and his alternate persona, P.K. Robbins.
Well, good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is P.K. Robbins. Prospect K. Robbins. I was born in Pittsfield, Massachusetts in 1782. As a young man, I was I always liked the outdoors. I was an adventurous type person. In my teenage years, I worked for a surveyor up in the northeast U.S. It was about early 1800s. I heard of this westward expansion that the United States was going through. And it intrigued me, and I wanted to be involved in it. So I gathered up enough money, and I got a boat down the Ohio River, got down to the Mississippi, headed north up the Mississippi, got to the Missouri, and headed west. Stopped at a little village called St. Charles. I got a job as a school teacher. I actually taught surveying. And later on, I was elected county surveyor. In 1813, I enlisted. And in 1815, I was discharged. I reached the rank of first lieutenant. A few weeks after my discharge, I received a letter from a gentleman by the name of William Rector. He was the deputy surveyor for the Upper Louisiana Territory, and his office was in St. Louis. He requested a meeting. A couple weeks later, I headed to St. Louis and met up with Mr. Rector. And at that meeting, I met another gentleman by the name of Joseph C. Brown. Mr. Brown and Mr. Rector had done some survey work over in Illinois. In fact, Mr. Rector surveyed what's described as the fourth principal meridian. At that meeting, he described some survey work he needed done. He wanted me to survey a north-south line. It's described as the fifth principal meridian. Joseph C. Brown was to survey an east-west line. It's described as a baseline. Along with other instructions, we were supposed to go ahead and acquire our equipment. The equipment included a compass made of Rittenhauser construction. David Rittenhauser was a maker of very fine scientific instruments back then. The compass was to keep me running north on my north-south line. The compass was keeping Mr. Brown running east and west, his west line. We were to measure. We were going to measure with a chain. A chain, this is described as a 4-pole chain, 66 feet long, has 100 links. There's tallies through the chain. Every 10 links, there's a tally. This is 4. This is at 40 links. This is at 20. This is at 40 from the other end of the tape. And there should be a round one here. Here he is. This is at the midpoint, 50 links both directions. We will gather up chain pins. There's 11. The reason there's 11 is we would put one in the ground where we started, the 4-chainman would have 10 of them. Every time he dropped the chaining pin, the rear chainman would pick it up, move on up. We'll get into that a little later. We were to gather our supplies. Our crew. The crew consisted of 2 chainmen, 2 flagmen, and another person running the instrument. We were to gather up whatever supplies we needed for the trip. We were to meet that fall at the shore of the Mississippi River and head out. And we did. It was early in October. I met up with Mr. Brown. We got together, made our schedule, met at the Mississippi River, loaded everything on a flat bottom boat, headed on down the Mississippi River. We stopped at a little place called Old Saline, just south of here. We picked up our salt that we needed for the expedition. Kept heading down south, got to the Arkansas River. I'm sorry, it was the St. Francis River. Mr. Brown got out and made camp. We floated on down to the Arkansas River. We got out and made camp. October 27th, I headed north. My compass was to keep me headed north. Mr. Brown headed west. His compass was to keep him headed west. Mr. Brown went approximately 50 miles, figured out he went too far. So he went back. We headed north. After 57 miles, we crossed the Mississippi River twice. We intersected Mr. Brown's line. That intersection is described as the initial point. That initial point is described in every deed, every land acquisition in Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. If that deed or any document describes any tract of land, it's based on that point.
Where's that located?
It's in Arkansas, about 80 miles into Arkansas. It's in a state park now. It's actually in a swamp. Several years ago, they built a wood plank out to it so that you can go out and see it at any time. So this was November 10th, 1815 is when we established that point. A couple days later, Mr. Brown headed west and I headed north. Now the idea of the United States wanted to survey everything in squares. They wanted to start out 6 square miles. They wanted to describe it as a township. And they wanted every half mile to be marked. So what we did is, and the instructions stated, we were to measure 40 chains. 40 chains is a half mile. We were set a post, mark witness trees. Another 40 chains, set a post, mark witness trees. We just go on the first mile. We drop a chain pin when we begin. 4 chain would have 10. Stretch the chain out. Keep it tight, hold it level, keep it horizontal. 4 chainman would drop the chaining pin. The rear chainman would pick it up. He'd walk up to where the 4 chainman was. Stretch the chain out again. Hold it tight, keep it level. The compass was keeping us running north. 4 chainman would drop another chaining pin. Rear chainman would pick it up. After 10 chains, 4 chainman would be out. And that's what he would yell, is out. To keep track, I would take a bead and throw it over my shoulder. We'd start all over. 40 chains. Mark, set a post, mark witness chain, mark witness trees. 40 chains. Set a post, mark witness trees. 357 miles later, we reached the Missouri bank, and our job was complete. Gathered up all our notes, headed back to St. Charles, organized everything. A couple days later, I headed back into St. Louis to Mr. Rector's office, turned everything over to him. We were done. It was a 6-month contract. We finished on December 28th, right at 2 months. Now, one thing we did discover was once you reach the Missouri hills, 4-pole chain, you can't keep it level. So the instructions changed. You could use a 2-pole chain, 33 feet, 50 links, same thing. It's got tallies on it. This is 20 from the end. This is 20 from the other end. Here's the midpoint. We were to carry 2 chains with us. One we'd use every day and one we would keep, we would never use. Periodically, we were supposed to compare the 2. There are 300 wear points on this chain. If each wear point wore 1/16 of an inch, this chain could easily grow a foot or 2. It's hard to imagine, but if you sit down, this is rusty. If anybody wants to take a look at it while they can, you can pass it around. But if you take a look up here at the top, you can see where it's worn. And that's more than 1/16 of an inch.
What did you mark each point in there?
The instructions call for a post.
A post. Wooden post.
Post.
Just a post.
Now, over the years, as they surveyed more, the instructions changed. In, I think it was 1824, the instructions stated that any chain had to have a brass handle. And there had to be some way of adjusting it. This one has no adjustment on it. But you can find some that will have, this screw here will be along the rod, and you can adjust.
Yeah.
After I left St. Louis, I went back to St. Charles. Got my job back as a school teacher.
Each one.
Married my sweetheart, Elizabeth Evans. We had 2 children, Jesse and Joseph. In the 1820s, we decided to leave St. Charles, and we ended up down here in St. Genevieve. Jesse grew up to be an attorney. He was circuit clerk and recorder. He was a state representative. Just west of the post office at the corner of 2nd and Merchant is the Jesse B. Robbins house. And the plaque is gone. I was going to take a picture of it, but I thought it was 1856 or something. I don't remember the exact date. Joseph, he ended up going back up to St. Charles. My wife always wanted me to be baptized, so in May of 1847 I was baptized, and in June 3rd, 1847 I died. I'm buried in the cemetery up here in St. Jen, just out here on Market Street.
Got it close.
How many Indians did you meet on the way?
The notes don't call for any. We didn't see any.
They probably seen you.
Oh, I may. Any other questions?
How accurate are your points? Like if you went back now and plotted that line, how far off are they?
Each surveyor is described as having a chaining factor. And if they use their normal crew, they're either a little long or a little short of a mile. And that's kind of the chaining factor. There's, we can get into it a little later, but there's townships. You got to remember, the United States wanted everything in squares, square townships. And then they would come in and divide the townships. So you could go into those townships, and Henry Elliott did St. John County, St. Francis, Perry County. He got into Northern Cape County. But most of his townships are like 55 to 60 feet long of a mile. And he's pretty consistent with it. So, you know, if you could figure out something like that about a surveyor, and he's consistent about it, he did good work.
When did you stop using chains?
I think Ray Dunsey was probably still using them in the 40s or the 50s around here.
60s, yeah.
Was he?
70s.
Yeah.
I don't know when he went to a steel tape.
That I carried with him, so it was fairly late.
Was it?
Yeah, because I remember pulling the pin, probably 60s, I guess.
case that the United States wanted it all in squares,
Yeah.
what other shapes did other regions have?
We'll get into that.
Did you draw up maps, or how did you keep records of where these markers were?
I've got copies of field notes that they took. It was just basically a small little book they would write down. They were supposed to keep track of, they were supposed to look for like salt springs or creeks or any kind of a spring, anything that was going to give value to the land, because the United States was eventually going to sell it. So they had to come up with some kind of price, depending on, whatever value they had from the notes.
When they get to a river or something, how do you calculate the distance across the river, the creeks?
Back then, I don't think the Mississippi was that deep, or the Missouri, because Lewis and Clark, they pulled the boat up the Missouri River. So
You had no levees back then or anything either.
yeah, the Corps wasn't involved in it yet. Any other questions? I will tell you, this chain here, it's hard to date chains, only because the restrictions or the instructions said that after 1824 they had to have a brass handle. There's no hard written rule to date a chain. But this came from Pennsylvania. It's got wire handles. It's actually got 3 swivels in it. And those swivels are used whenever you pull them tight to spin and keep the kinks out of it. So I don't have a problem saying this is from the 1700s.
Did they have to clear brush as they went?
Oh yeah. They had 2 axemen was with them, and then 2 flagmen, or 2 chainmen.
And the guy that was on a compass, all he did was stand there
Yep.
all day, go left or go right, or?
Well, we'll get into it, but they would get, on a good day, 6 or 7 miles. So there wasn't a lot of standing around.
And they carried their provisions with them the
Yep.
whole day. They were cleaning brush, packing their lunch or whatever.
Well, but it's probably jerky or,
They had enough supplies to go that long, or I guess they had to hunt and fish.
well, yeah, all we know is their notes and to read their notes. There are some interesting notes out toward Washington County where they dropped the compass in the river and they had to go back to St. Louis to get it repaired. So they were getting $3 a mile, but that was everything. That was their supplies, that was their crews, that was whatever they needed was $3 a mile.
Each or together?
That was everything.
They were all.
One person got paid $3 and he had to divvy it up.
But a lot of money back then.
And
They were spending while you're out there.
And was the chain all standardized from like European surveying?
I'm not exactly sure when it got standardized to 66 feet. I don't know.
And a mile was a mile today.
Yeah.
But they did the same thing like over in Europe or wherever surveying?
That I don't know, but I know they did the same up in the colonies and
Okay.
Is it still based on that one chain or one rod then? It's like 16 feet?
16 and a half feet.
Yeah. Okay. And one chain is?
66 feet would be a 4-pole. A pole is the same as a rod.
Oh, okay, pole is all right.
And then some of them even call them a perch. A perch is 16 and a half feet, a rod is 16 and a half feet, a pole is 16 and a half.
Huh. Did you come across, you do around here with Arpins?
Yeah, that's either the French or the Spanish measurement.
Yeah. So you would have started then in Arkansas and went all the way to the Missouri or Iowa line?
Missouri River. Later on, they came in and they extended it across the Missouri River and went on north.
All the way Canada or what?
No, the Mississippi River cuts it off.
Oh, Mississippi,
north.
okay.
Yeah, the Mississippi River comes back in, and the fifth principal reading hits it. We got, I guess we may as well just start. If anybody's got another question, we can get the questions after a while too.
They were using a compass for north, but that's not a true north. How did they rectify all that? Or did they not even realize what they were doing?
Every once in a while, they would check into the North Star.
They would.
Yeah. And the different instructions changed how often they would have to check into the North Star.
Because as you move north, that's going to change it.
Right, it's even worse heading west, because the west line is actually a curve on it.
Interesting, around here, there's almost no deviation to true north. We use it in flying.
In surveying, it's about 3.5 degrees.
Yeah.
But back then, it was 7.5 degrees.
Did you come across anyone that did the surveying and every time you came to this section, he moved over?
No, I can't say I have that.
There was one that did that up in it because he knew he was getting closer as he went north to get to the North Pole.
Oh, well, when you get up into Minnesota, because magnetic north is just into Canada.
Yeah.
So by the time you get up to Minnesota, your compass is going to be looking this direction, but you're really trying to go this direction.
So they would measure that angle and apply that
Yeah.
as they went.
And okay, let's get into this, and it might answer some of your surveys. Just a little bit of history up until then. The French out of Canada settled in 1670. Joliet and Marquette's journey. LaSalle claims Mississippi Valley for France. I guess I better move. Can I move this?
Oh, sure.
Anybody see it? George Washington becomes a surveyor. French and Indian War. Treaty 1762, France conceded Louisiana Territory to Spain. The first grants or concessions on the Louisiana Territory was in 1766. France continued to dispose of the land until 1770 when Spain took over. The territory returns back to Spain in 1800. December 1803, U.S. doubles in sizes. 828,000 square miles for $15 million. I've seen numbers of 827, and I've also seen a number of 909. Lewis and Clark in 1804. 2 years later, they show back up. 1811 and 1812. The earthquakes down in New Madrid. Missouri became a state in 1812. The original counties of St. Louis, St. Genevieve, St. Charles, New Madrid, and Cape Girardeau. This is a map of the original counties. This in here is Cape Girardeau, this is St. Genevieve, St. Louis. I don't know if everybody can see it.
One of them followed Apple Creek too. One county.
Yeah, between Perry County and Cape County. But what happened was Cape Girardeau and St. Genevieve County was from the Mississippi River all the way over to the west state line. So what happened was Perry County came out of St. Genevieve County. St. Francis came out of the original St. Genevieve County. Jefferson came out of the original St. Louis County. So as each county was incorporated, it would determine which county they actually came out of originally, because there was only 5 counties. We have one here, St. Charles. New Madrid was huge. October 27th, P.K. Rollins starts it, Joseph C. Brown, they established the initial point. Mount Rushmore is 3 surveyors and the other guy. And we can't forget Herbert Hoover, he was also a president, or he was also a surveyor. This is the Louisiana Purchase, what's in green. Board of Commissioners. The U.S. set up the Board of Commissioners. France and Spain owned the property before the U.S. and they conceded or they transferred property to individuals. The United States wanted to accept those concessions, so they set up a Board of Commissioners. And they started in 1805 and the first board ended in 1812. The claimants must present evidence of the claim, a concession from Spain or France. They must show improvements to the property. It must be surveyed, and no more than 800 arpents would they allow. This caused a lot of problems. It caused a lot of lawsuits. So the United States came up with the second Board of Commissioners in 1832.
You had one of those first ones up there, somebody owned 5 million acres in the east.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be part of this because it's not part of the Louisiana Purchase.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I think it was Lord Fairfax who had 5 million acres over there. So the second Board of Commissioners, their duties was to review the complaints from the first board as well as new claims.
How many arpents does it take to make an acre, or is it the other way around?
There's one surveyed at 7,056 arpents, and I think it's 6,006 acres. It'll show up later on.
Doesn't it vary from this area to Louisiana?
The only variance is whether it's French or Spanish.
Okay, the size of the arpent.
Yeah, and it's like 85 hundredths of a foot is an arpent or something like that. Most of the information I have here come from the Secretary of State's office. I spent quite a bit of time up there going through their records, getting copies and stuff, and it's been a while. This is dated July 3rd, 2010. I originally made this presentation up for the county surveyors and gave it a couple times to them because land grants are common over here. They're all up and down the Missouri River, all up and down the Mississippi River. So you get over by Salem or Springfield, they have no idea what a land grant is. So here's a drawing of the 5th principal meridian. This is the Arkansas River. This is where P.K. Robbins started. This is the St. Francis River. This is where Joseph C. Brown started. He headed west. P.K. Robbins headed north. December 10th, 1815, the lines intersected.
Who came up with the starting points? Okay, did they tie it into somebody else's survey from
No.
before?
No.
They were just arbitrary.
Yep. And I've looked at a lot of old maps of the Mississippi River and nobody really had, a good map, relative map of the Mississippi River. They just didn't,
Was this area in Arkansas, Missouri, was this the first surveyed area in Louisiana Purchase?
Yeah.
So then everything else later was connected to it?
Other than what the French and Spanish did. And I'm going to get into it, I'm going to constantly say GLO. That's just the term we use. GLO stands for General Land Office. That's the office that was in charge of surveying the Louisiana Purchase. Here is the outline of Missouri. As I described earlier, everything was supposed to be in squares. I don't know if you can see it, but there's little bitty squares all over this. Can most people see it? Yeah. Each square is a township. So, right here, we're at township 21. So that's 21 times 6, because each township is 6 miles square from the initial point. So that's 86 miles to get up to here.
Now, that's not the western edge of Missouri, right?
No, this is the 5th principal meridian. There's another picture I'm gonna bring up here shortly that's gonna show the whole state. But these are ranges. Don't get the screen, right? These are ranges. You can see 1 through 17 over here. So, let's go up here to St. Genevieve. St. Genevieve's Township 38 north, range 9 east is where we're at. So whenever you give a township and range, if you give a 33 north, range 7 east, if your piece of property is in there, you're narrowed down to that 6 mile square area. You can't be anywhere else in the state. You're in that 6 mile area.
So the straight line on the left part of that picture is what this guy measured or put in.
Yep. Actually, he stopped here.
Okay.
Let's see, yeah, he stopped here and later on they went on north.
And if you were to take a straight edge to his line, how straight was he?
Relatively straight.
That's just a long way to go.
Yeah. And you have to remember, the other thing is, when GLO, when the General Land Office, when a deputy surveyor set a corner, he set a post with witness trees. There is no air to that corner. It's supposed to be a mile down to the, or a half mile or a mile down to the next corner. It could be, 5,050 feet. It could be 5,300 feet. There's no air in that corner. If you find it, it's there. No measurement is no measurement's gonna throw that point out.
Is that the one that you often set from the state funding, so
Mhm.
yeah, reestablished them? Right. Now one of my relatives had one of those, and you can build over it, you just cannot dig it up.
If you're gonna you can, but the land survey always like to know about it, and they will come in and they'll make reference monuments to it, or they'll set something, permanent around it that it can be measured into.
I think this particular one was at the edge of the foundation on a farm building.
Now, there's one in town here that's right at the corner of a garage.
Yeah.
He said witness tree. Is that a tree that ends up right on the?
No, they would set the point, and let's say there's a white oak over there. They would take the compass, give a bearing to the compass or a bearing to the tree, and then they would measure to the tree, and they would make a note of the species and the diameter of the tree.
And did they worry about that tree dying or burning down?
No, I don't think they had a concept of what today is. The difference of measuring today and trying to retrace what they were doing, because they were marking 2 trees. Today in the process, we mark 4 trees.
Now, you still use witness trees up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we also put what's described as state plane coordinates on it. And it's basically, if you put a state plane coordinate on it, it is relative to really any corner in the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
We could have a section corner down here and have state plane coordinates, and 15 miles north up in St. Louis or Jefferson County, you have a state plane coordinate on it, and you'll have accurate measurements between the two. So here's the same drawing, except it's got the outlines of the counties on it, and everything is really blurry because they put an overlay over the top of it. But the blue line, here's St. John, here's Perry.
Why did Orange County get such a shape?
Honestly,
It ought to be in another county, 2 counties.
this is the original line.
Well, we can see it now.
Thank you.
That line. Hey, I'm learning something. This line here, after St. John County was surveyed, I don't know if it was a statute or what it was, but the county cannot be less than so many acres. St. John County was short. So they came in here and they dropped this down and came across with St. John County to get their acreage. But that's how this little notch got into St. John
I
County.
think I counted once, there's like 13 corners in St. John County. There's a little sliver that goes up here in Jefferson County.
Yeah. And then, how iron got its shape, I don't really know. All right, here we go.
Okay.
There. Okay, here's the whole state. Here's the 5th principal meridian. St. John County, there's Perry County, St. John. You can see over here, well, I'd blow it up and I'm afraid I'd break something. This is actually range 33. So anything east of the 5th principal meridian is described as range 10 east. This 33 over here would be 33 west. And there's still, each little square here is a township. That's the whole idea. Why? I'm not sure, but they describe this as a rectangular survey system. But it's squares.
Thank you.
I think it's that straight line on the west side of the Missouri.
How?
Yeah, was that their original?
This was added on to Missouri. This is the Osage Treaty Line. Actually, Joseph C. Brown, who did a lot of survey work, and a very respectable surveyor, we think he may be buried in Bell Fountain Cemetery up in St. Louis. Surveyors actually bought a plot for him, and there's a big stone engraving of all the survey work he did. He surveyed the upper and lower Santa Fe Trail. He surveyed the north boundary of Missouri, the west boundary of Missouri, and the south boundary of Missouri. But none of them are used today as the boundary. He surveyed the Osage Treaty Line, and eventually Missouri moved out. You got the Honey War up on the northern end. Honey War line, anybody heard of the lawsuit? The gun battle between Missouri and Iowa?
I've heard of it.
Whether or not it's true, there were supposed to be some honey trees up there that everybody was fighting over. Got into a lawsuit. The militia was called out. It was supposed to have turned into a big thing, but really didn't. But they ended up resurveying it and coming up with I guess the line for today. The south line is supposed to be, I think it's a latitude of 3630. But when Joseph C. Brown surveyed it and they resurveyed it again, there was a little bit more modern technology, and they had a better idea of where that standard parallel actually was. And this tip down here, everybody knows about it, don't they? This guy owned all kinds of ground. He didn't want to be in Arkansas.
I think he rode to Washington, D.C. He told it to call.
Yeah. He had enough political pull that,
He bought that ground up after the earthquakes.
is that how it was?
He bought all that ground, and one person owned all that, and he didn't want to be part of Arkansas, so he petitioned the state of Missouri, and he annexed it to be part of the state of Missouri.
Wow.
Yeah. Here's just a blow up of that same area, same map. Once again, township 38 north, range 9 east, St. Genevieve. Jeff City looks like it's 44 north, range 12 west.
So the western boundary that you just showed, that'll go to Osage?
No, that was just the last one was just a blow up of the kind of southeast Missouri area.
Yeah.
It didn't show the whole state.
But, yeah, the line though that you had a couple back there, I guess, sorry about that. Yeah, right there. That is not a survey line now?
No, it's not.
Okay. It's not like a 5th principal meridian?
No.
Because the 4th is in Illinois, isn't it?
I can't remember what fort is up here next to the Missouri River. But that's what Joseph C. Brown started for the Osage Treaty Line.
Okay.
Touch it, but
What's the North Missouri up there, that one, where they off
this
to
was another addition on to Missouri.
6 counties or something?
Yeah. But if you look up here to north, we're at Township 66 North. So this is Township 34 North, Range 8 East. This is what the U.S. was hoping was going to happen. This is 6 miles square. Now, inside each 6 miles, there are sections, and they're supposed to be a mile square, 640 acres. This is section 1, goes over here to 6, drops down to 7, comes back to 12, 13, to 18, 19, 24, 25, over to 30, 31 to 36. So each one of these is a square mile.
So they expected to sell that to somebody, is that?
Yeah.
the idea?
This is the southern end of St. John County. Perry County's over here. This right here is St. Francis County, and this little tip that sticks down in here is St. John County. So this is down by
T Road.
what's below Kaufman, Wallington, that area.
An easy way to remember a numbering system, they numbered it in a serpentine manner.
Here's another township, Township 34 North, Range 11 East. Now in this one, there's a couple little land grants pop up. Still didn't mess anything up, you know, everything's still halfway square. Now, you had a surveyor come in, and he surveyed the out boundary of the township. Once again, he'd start down here, 40 chains, set of posts, 80 chains, set of posts all the way up through, down here on the south side, up on the north side. So you had another group, and it could have been the same person, but other surveyors came in, and they were surveying out each section. So they would come in here, and the instructions indicated they were to start here, they were to run this line to get their compass relative to the previous survey. And the idea behind that was, that way these lines would be parallel as much as possible. And again, they come in, they set the compass up, run it, adjust the compass. They'd come over here and find this corner, which was already set. Go north 40 chains, set a post, mark witness trees. 40 more chains, set a post, mark witness trees. And they'd turn east, come over here. This corner was already there. So they would end up missing it. So what would happen, and you can't see it, but there's a little number here. It shows how far they missed that closing corner. And then they would come back to the half point and adjust it. Let's say they were 10 links off of this corner from closing, and there's 10 links long. Well, they would come back here and they would set this corner at 40.05 chains, and they would move it up 5 links. So the idea was, and I talked earlier about $3 a mile. They got paid. They got paid. They did not get paid. They got paid. They got paid. They did not get paid. They were getting 3 miles for every line they surveyed. They had to walk back across a line. They didn't get paid. So, and what we think happened was, whenever they were surveying this township, they would come in and they would make camp somewhere in the middle of it. And there was a cook along with them. That's all he pretty well did. They would come in, start, work as far as they can, and the instructions called they were supposed to run this set of sections, come back down, this set. If you read their actual notes, they probably didn't do that. Sometimes they would come in and they may go up 2 or 3 sections, and then they would come down and go up again. They were kind of on their own. This is a blow up of the one we just showed. This is year survey 2727. This one is 3134.
How did they identify them before the rectangular system? So the Spanish and the French land grants, how did they identify those?
The French grants on the surveys, all it indicated was X amount of miles southwest of maybe New Bourbon, or X amount of miles northwest of St. Genevieve. That's the only description they have on the surveys.
So the survey number is basically a claim number that went to court.
Well, I think whenever they made a claim, the US gave them a number.
And some of them had decision numbers on them too.
Yeah. And that is, we'll get into that a little bit. So everything's still looking halfway square. Here is copies of the notes for that 3134. This one right here. And it's Isidore Moore, who was a representative of Thomas Fenwick. It's 500 Arkins, 425.34 acres. Township 34 North, Range 11 East, the 5th Principal Meridian. When the contract was signed and they went out to do the work, they had to be sworn in. They had to be sworn in. Do solemnly swear on the presence of Almighty God that I may faithfully and impartially execute and fulfill the duties of a chain carrier. That I will level the chain, plumb the pins, to obtain a true horizontal distance, and that I will make a true report of the length of all lines, that I may, to be a part of all the lines that I may be a part of in measuring, to the best of my ability, so help me God. And that's Austin Moore and Stephen Moore. And then here is sworn and subscribed before the undersigned in August 1838. Francis Clark, Deputy Surveyor, do solemnly swear in the presence of Almighty God that I will faithfully and truly perform the duties of flagman and axeman, as the case may be, required to the best of my abilities, so help me God. And that's Samuel Moore and William Moore. Sworn to and subscribed before the undersigned this 9th day of August 1838. This is Francis Clark, who was basically the party chief, deputy surveyor. And then Austin Moore was the forechainman, Stephen Moore was the hindchainman, Samuel Moore was the axeman, William Moore was the flagman. Yeah, I'm going to go back. There's more to that. Okay, here they came in and they adjusted the compass to the line between sections 21 and 22. The variation was found to be 7.5 degrees. Survey for Samuel Moore, 500 Arkins, 425.34 acres, confirmed to by an act of Congress. If the claim, if the first Board of Commissioners or the second Board of Commissioners did not accept their claim, they sued the government. And actually, the surveying for the Louisiana Purchase wasn't completed until the 1850s. And that was because of all the lawsuits. So this is in 1838. It's an act of Congress. I'm guessing somebody had money. They went to somebody and said, hey, buddy, I need. So it was approved by Congress in May of 1830. Thomas Fenwick, under a concession granted by Trudeau, he was the state lieutenant governor in the Upper Louisiana Territory, and that concession was dated June 1st, 1797. So even he had, a lot of the information that was needed. It sounds like the board still doesn't accept it. It says beginning at the center of section 15, Township 34 North, Range 11 East of the 5th Principal Meridian, where they set a stone 12 inches in diameter, or 12 inches long, 5 inches, 10 inches wide, from which a white oak 20 inches in diameter, about bears south 56 degrees west, 26 lengths. And a 10-inch white oak bears north 42 degrees, 47 degrees, 50 lengths. So at every time they set a corner, and in this instance, they set a stone. I think it was 1824, the instructions changed, and I think it was again around 1830 again, where they changed the instructions where at that point in time, they were supposed to set a stone at all the corners and mark witness trees. Later on, they actually marked a stone at 4 witness trees. So as the surveying went, they, I guess it proved the evidence that would be found later on.
When was the pile of rocks?
Well, nobody really knows other than if it's in an area where there's no soil, they had to set a post. So the thinking is, well, they gathered up rocks, hold the post up. The post deteriorated, the rock pile stays there.
Because now we want to know what corner of which rock is the point.
Well, if you could find that stone, I don't care how big it is, you're there.
We were at the edge, my home area was at the edge of the Spanish Lane Grant. And you went to the east, it was a pile of rocks. On the west, then it was a point.
But here again, they gave you the size of the stone and witness trees. So when you go out there, that's a lot of evidence to look for.
That this was they had a claim from the Spanish or the French, and there was a rough description of it and the size of it, and they went out and surveyed something to kind of match the square of the section to give them that much land, or how close was the land they granted? Because you're showing squares.
Was that decided out in the field or on paper? What they were possessing out in the field? A lot of US surveys, you're 90 degrees.
Right. Well, he had a survey dated June of 1797, so that's going to help out a lot there. Because Clark, when he goes out to survey, he's going to have something to follow. Now, whether or not it ended up on the section line or not, originally, probably not, but that's where they put it.
What do you think the reason we're a lot of the 90 degrees on the USS surveys?
We don't really find a lot of them. Usually all kinds of angles.
I mean, a lot of them, some of them, they're 90 degrees.
Yeah, 90 degrees, but they're not north, south, east, and west surveys.
No, I was just wondering, did they decide that out in the field with the owners that, hey, we can't go like this and that?
Well, the French surveys I've got, a lot of them are at 90 degrees. They do have 90-degree corners to them. They're just cockeyed to the world.
Yeah.
And there's the rest of the notes. And you can see at each point, as they go through here, at 15 chains, 10 links, they hit 10-inch white oak. At 25 chains, 50 links, they hit an 18-inch white oak. At 40 chains, they set a sandstone, 18 inches by 15 by 10, from which black oak, 12 inches in diameter, and another black oak.
No, those trees are small.
18 inch?
Well, yeah, because it was old growth forest. I mean, 18 inches now might be pretty serious, but I wonder if they particularly picked smaller trees so that they would live longer, last longer, be a better marker. Because, I mean, we're talking old growth forest, we're not talking about...
I would say they didn't care, because there's dogwoods as witness trees, there's maple trees. The dogwood is going to last 25, 30 years at the most.
I understand.
So
I'm just saying that a 12-inch oak tree is not a very big tree.
today, whenever we mark trees, we're looking for pine trees. Pine trees last a long time. White oaks, black oaks, gums. Stay away from the maples, stay away from the hickories, unless you have to. And that's just because of the length that they'll live. The longer the evidence, the longer we can perpetuate the corner. Here's kind of chip 36 north, range 7 east. Still kind of square. We give you a relationship of where you are. We're down here by Hawn Park. 32. Kaufman is down here. Highway 32 is going to come through here. Hawn Park is going to take care of this area. You can see here that these section lines run through that land grant. So that person did not have the correct evidence, either through the first Board of Commissioners or the second one. They didn't accept his claim, or that person's claim. And this is Thomas Madden. Thomas Madden also owns some land grants over here at Kaufman. But if you look close, there's a decision number. That decision number, either he went to court or the Land Commission eventually gave it to him. But there was a decision after this was surveyed. This was surveyed 1818, 1819. His claim was accepted after that. So decision number 140, 184, you could go in and read it. There was a Board of Commissioners, the book, it's basically a recorders of all the evidence that was presented and then the final decisions. You can go through and read what evidence this person claimed or had presented, maybe even a survey. So after it was granted to him, the U.S. came out and resurveyed that.
It looks like about 1,200 acres there.
It is 2,000 arpents, 1,700 acres. They would come out and they would survey, and I'll explain what they did. They started at this north corner, they ran southeast, where they intersected an existing section line. They would set a post or stone, depending on the instructions, and mark witness trees. So they started at the corner, that's 1, intersection of a section, 2, this actually falls at a section corner, 3, here's a section line 4, section line 5, corner U.S. survey, 6, section line 7, section line 8, U.S. survey 9, section line 10, section line 11, section line 12, section line 13. So they set 13 corners around that land grant.
So how did they find where he was? Because he was just out there before they did the north, south, and east, west.
How'd they find who? The concession, that grant? Well, he probably had a survey which helped out.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, a lot of those people went out with the surveyors. But as they originally surveyed this, they would blaze a line. If a tree, if the line through here and the tree is a foot or 2 off the line, they would hack that tree as they walk by. If they, and there is evidence of a lime tree up in Jefferson County we found. It was like 5 chains off the section corner. And there was evidence of that tree there. So it's still 6 miles square. And everything's still, we're hoping. I'm still hoping.
How did the French or the Spanish identify where that area was?
On their surveys, they would note that it's, 8 miles southwest of New Bourbon or 6 miles west of St. Genevieve. Here's Township 36 north, range 9 east. We are right in this area. It's outlined in red is these 2 big land grants. This land grant, Francis Valley, his name shows up a lot. This land grant is Marie Louise Valley Villars, her relatives. This land grant in here, Francis Valley. You could take a look here and you could see these section lines go through this land grant as well as that one. The U.S. didn't accept their claim to begin with. If you look at, these are all land grants down through here. They accepted those. This is a Saline Creek. You can kind of see all these butt up against water. 55 runs through here. This is the county line between St. County and St. Frank, or Perry County. Here's a blow up of what we were just looking at. This is Saline Creek and all these land grants in here that were accepted. This one here was not. There's several slides in here that refer to or relate to Marine Valley Valars and Francis Valley surveys. So I'll try and keep. This is notes for Francis Valley. This was that small strip in between the two big ones that they did accept. This is in 1818. So when they came in and surveyed that township, they came in and surveyed these land grants that were accepted first. And I'm convinced that France had some type of map, maybe probably not like townships, but they had some kind of a map that kind of jigsaw puzzled these together. Otherwise, I don't know how anybody kept track of anything. I don't know how you could.
So they surveyed those before they surveyed the townships?
Yeah. If the grant was accepted, they surveyed them first. Here's an interesting. This is Township 34 North, Range 6 East. Fredericktown's down here. Okay. And again, Francis Valley. This is 27,892 acres.
Is that the Mine Lamont area? It also goes up into St. Francis County.
And it's 37,728 acres.
And they still, I think, use the section lines in there to describe it.
Yeah, some of it they do. So, keep in mind this one, because the next slide is going to be this slide. They're going to butt up against each other. So keep in mind what this looks like. There's the other side of it. For some reason, I don't know why, but they surveyed this land grant twice. So every place they crossed the section line, they marked, set of posts, marked with the streets. Now, I started to look into how far different one line is from the other. But there's two sets of corners coming down, this whole out boundary of this.
So how do you know which one's right and which one's wrong?
The latest one. So and there's a lot of witness trees out there to look for.
Was it redone because there was some dispute, or?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I'd like to get into it, but maybe when I retire.
Who paid for all that surveying for claimants? Grant.
U.S.?
Taxpayer did.
Yeah. Because they already owned it. They already owned it, but the U.S. didn't accept it at first.
Is some of that pertaining to lead mine grants?
We looked at this township over here just a few slides ago. This is Francis Valley, 7,000 orphans. So this is the other end of his, Interstate 55 comes down through here. Now we're getting into land grants that are really not square to the wood. I believe this section here is the only one that would be a full section out of the whole township. We're still looking at 6 miles square. Here's another one. This is Township 37 North, Range 5 East. This is over closer to Bonne Terre, Park Hills area. I believe this is the Big River. So you can can see, not really anything is too much relative to north and south. This would be Bloomsdale, right in here. This would be Establishment Creek. This little line coming up through here would be Florida Creek. So the town of Bloomsdale sitting right in here. Lake Forest and Rocky Ridge would be down in here. Once again, Francis Valley. This is another 7,000 orphan piece of property that
How did France or Spain or whoever grant those to Francis Valley?
from what I understand, he was a merchant. And he's provided a lot of supplies for the War of 1812 and before that, you had the French and Indian War. From what I understand, he was a lawyer. You'll have to come to the Deja Vu Cemetery in October to find out the whole story. And please do, it's a lot of fun. Here's a survey plat of the town of New Bourbon. Highway 61 is going to come right down through here. Bourbon Road's going to peel off, turn up north, head across. Loaded supply is going to sit right in here. Once again, Francis Valley. This is Kaufman down in here. I brought this up because of this land grant here, which is this right here. And it follows Saline Creek. Saline Creek kind of weaves in and out along that piece of property. And most land grants either have a somewhat major creek or waterway through it, or it butts up against a creek. So this land grant actually starts in this township. Once again, it's still 6 miles square here. It starts in this township, goes through this corner. The next slide is going to be this township below. And this is it here. And Saline Creek runs pretty well through it. And you can see down in this area, we still have the nice square mile sections.
So who owned that one?
Who owns which one? This land grant here?
Yeah.
Probably would have to get the notes to read the true names.
So it's not Francis Valley.
Not this one. He likes the nice big square ones.
How did they get a land grant? Just request it, or?
From what I understand, France owed a lot of money to a lot of people after the French and Indian War. They didn't have the money. So instead of money, they went ahead and said, okay, here, go get a claim of, 1,000 orphans or something to that effect. So they gave out land. Some of it they did sell. How much I really don't know, but I understand that a lot of it was given away because of money owed.
So that's how Valley got it. He was a merchant supplying everything, and they didn't pay him, so they gave him land.
Foreclosed on the French government. So, I took the notes for that land grant. This is what it looks like.
I know where that's
I plotted that out on the computer. It is 983.81 chains around it. They started here, came down, turned around and went back up, closed back into there where they started, and they missed that point by 1.33 chains, 100 feet. It's like 13 miles around this, and they closed within 100 feet.
chain was worn more when they got to the end.
Here's Township 36 North, Range 11 East, and this one's pretty low top too.
Where is that one located?
This is just in Perry County.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So this section here, but no, it's not. That's land grant number 838. I don't think there's these two sections here may be the only two common.
Oh, how would they ever get those things located to the
Well,
fifth meridian?
I brought across a couple maps. I think I have a slide of one in here of around St. Mary, and it shows a lot of the French grants.
Yeah.
And I think France had to have something like this. I inquired with the Secretary of State's office, and they directed me maybe down to Louisiana, because they still may have a lot of their records.
They don't even parallel each other, a lot of them don't.
Show them one in the city of St. John.
The long skinny ones. Wrong finger, use a different finger.
That one's getting worn out. Too many chains.
Yeah.
This is 38 North, Range 9 East, which is going to be right here. Here's the town of St. John's. It's up in here. This is that long narrow strip that runs down along Old St. Mary's Road. Highway 61 would continue on down. This little area down here is New Bourbon. 61 would head up this direction and head on out. Tower Rock would be up in this area. Mississippi Line would all be down in here. All of these little narrow strips, land grants.
Who's the bigger grant in there?
Right here.
Right there.
Francis Valley. Valley Spring subdivision would be right in here. M Road would, come down through here. The cemetery, Valley Spring Cemetery would be up in this area.
Now, is it true that some of those that go toward the river are like one square arpent wide and then goes to the river?
Yeah.
But-
Arpent and a half, 2 arpents, 3 arpents wide, and then go to the river.
Okay.
Now, there's theories about that. One theory is everybody wanted waterfront.
Yeah.
And the other theory is the farmers could get together and, till their ground, work together, and if they were attacked by Indians, there would be more than one person there to defend them off.
Okay.
To me, I think it's water rights more than it is the Indians.
One finger.
This is basically the same map, other than it's a different drawing. It shows all the way, all the land grants going all the way out to the river. New Bourbon was still in here, Francis Valley, and then the town. Here it shows actually some of the city blocks in town are showing up. Here's the town, the village of St. Genevieve in 1825. Joseph C. Brown came in and surveyed the town of St. Gen in the mid-1840s. And in his notes, he does refer to, I don't remember which block it was, but it didn't fit the map. I'm assuming this is the map he was looking at. This is the only one I've ever run across.
Where is the river on that? Right by the town?
Right here. I've got this hanging up on the wall over there.
Yeah. That, the river was right up nearly against the town, so it wasn't that close then? What was the bottom between it and the town?
Well, up closer to the city park, the Mississippi River was up against, up against there. But the accretions started at Island, which now the city dump was on, or the burn area. That was an island at one time.
Oh, okay.
and it just kept growing. And, you know, Old St. Mary's Road will be coming down through here. And it has names, lots inside the blocks as well as blocks. They have names and they're numbered. This is just a blow up, the same picture we had earlier, and it shows the names. And this here would be the North Gabourey. Here's the town. I'm guessing 1845 because it shows it was after Joseph C. Brown was in there, and it shows how he laid out the blocks. And inside the block, could be 2, could be 3, could be 4 land grants.
I just thought land grant was big acreage,
Yeah.
so it was a city lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you could call it a concession.
Oh,
It was something that the French or Spanish
yeah.
conceded to the person. Here's a blow up of the area. This is City Block 17. This is Market Street. Old St. Mary's Road. 2nd Street. No, this is 4th. This is 3rd. Market Street. Museum's right here. This is US Survey 252. It's listed as school land. If there was no one claiming that piece of property, or whoever was claiming it, the government didn't accept it, it was given to the school. Let's see, this is school land here. This is empty, this is blank. Here's school land. Here's the inhabitants of St. Genevieve. Roman Catholic congregation of St. Genevieve. And then this right here would be the cemetery.
What school is that in? Public school?
Probably so. They were given the 16th, by the instructions, they were given the 16th section of every township.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ended up being section 15, but they were given a section in each township. They could either put a school on it, or they could sell part of it, or do whatever they need to support the school. And the reason it's called reorganized is because the school district would, you know, it was Township 38 North, Range 5 East. If the public school would incorporate that area into, you know, the existing school district, it's called reorganized. So over the years, they would gather up each district, and it was the reorganized school. Here is an aerial photo. There's the courthouse, the old brick. Museum is right there with a black roof. So it is actually part of the school land and that land grant. Here is one of Joseph C. Brown's surveys of City Block 17. I apologize for it being blurry, but you know, documents from the 1800s sometimes are a little hard to read. But he describes what he surveyed, what he said at each corner. Goodness trees in town were slim.
Uses a lot of building corners in town though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Here's City Block 17 again. Here's that vacant lot or school land. So the museum sets in here, and that's US Survey 174. So this document shows what he surveyed around. this is city block 15. This is across the street. The old brick sets in here. 3rd Street, 2nd Street, Speed Market, there's Merchant. St. John County Abstracts right in here, sponsor for tonight. When Joseph C. Brown surveyed that city block, he set stones in all the corners. Set 4 stones around the city blocks. We found that corner. There's a brass tablet in the concrete in the sidewalk. And the reason we know it's there, when he set the stone, he said the corner of the brick building was 11¼ inches away.
You have those on the record somewhere?
Yeah, the previous document, if you read it, it would show it. So it's not any different than going out in the woods and setting a post and marking 2 witness trees. So the witness trees can be as valuable as the corner itself. So there's a tablet there.
One thing about your witness trees, they told me in the past they like pine trees because they have a central taproot.
And they last long.
The oaks would spread out.
So this is a copy of the, it shows here. Here we go. Being the southwest corner of the block at the intersection of the northwest edge of 2nd Street with the northeast edge of Court Street, from which witnessed 11½ inches south 84¼ degrees west from the southwest corner of a brick house standing on the block. So in 2002, we drilled out the sidewalk and put a tablet in there. And on over by the Mamie Shaw house, over by it would be Merchant and 2nd Street, there's a tablet like that there as well. This is the cemetery. The old cemetery out here. Roman Catholic Congregation of St. Genevieve.
What year?
1840.
So that's all?
Older than that.
Well, the cemetery is, but that's just when Joseph C. Brown came in and surveyed.
Oh, sort of, okay.
So all these blocks were basically here when he surveyed.
Yeah.
And he had an old map said it doesn't match, and he had to come back and do it again.
Well, I think he was using this, and there was twice that he noted, I think it was up by the high school, we were doing some work, that he made a note that it didn't fit the map. Not the entire county, just a couple of areas.
So somebody laid out the town
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. You know, the town, I don't remember what year does the town move up here. Very there. She lived another 15 years after he did. In that time frame, they closed the cemetery. So she wanted to be buried next to him. So she petitioned the fathers to open it back up for her to be buried. In exchange, she would deed them property out by the cemetery now.
She petitioned the church?
Oh, I know it's the fathers. See, the city took over the cemetery. The church turned it over to the city at one point in time.
This one.
Yeah. There's a picture of the Memorial Cemetery. In 2006, P.K. Robbins is buried here. Records show it. Where it is.
Roughly where?
No. In 2006, the county surveyors came in, the restoration was redoing the cemetery. They put a walk path down through there, and the county surveyors went ahead and donated this bench in memory of PK, and we put that plaque there. And I'll read it because a lot of them can't see it. In memory of Prospect K. Robbins, surveyor, 1782 to 1847. In the fall of 1815, under contract with the General Land Office, he surveyed the first 375 miles of the 5th principal meridian. the north and south line of which all land surveys in Missouri and 5 other states are based, dedicated by the Missouri Association of County Surveyors in 2006. Here is copies of French land grants. This is US Survey 2046, and this is 884. This is out by Rocky Ridge and Lake Forest. This is 2046. This is 884.
Why are the numbers so different?
Hmm?
Why are the numbers of them so different? I would think they're right next to one another, the numbers would be
It's probably,
2046 and 884, I would think they would be
it probably
2047.
depended on when they submitted their claim to
Okay.
the first board. And here is situated 9 miles northwest of the village of St. Genevieve. This one is 12 miles, something or another, from St. Genevieve.
Are those French or Spanish?
These are French.
Where do you get that information? Where, our land grants just down from that a little bit, 2060.
I got this from the Secretary of State's office.
Okay. Yeah, I've been curious about trying to find more info about the one on our property.
And the only way I was able to relate these to actual, the U.S. government surveying it is first by the name. And then their detail, French survey details are tremendous. You know, they show the creeks, the rivers on it, so I'm able to look at topo maps or whatever and kind of relate to them. And then the name is a clear giveaway, because this is Francis Valley and this is Francis Moreau. In the U.S., whatever they surveyed, their names would be on as well. This is out by Stocktown. This is Marie Valley. B Road runs through here. This is the River Vause. Let's see where this is situated. Easy. Well, this is dated 1796. If I could read French, I could tell you it all. I can't read French.
Is there an acreage or arpents on that?
1,658 orphans. And that is right here. That's at the corner of B Road and Ice and Ice Bottom Road. So Ice and Ice Bottom Road would come up through here. And then B Road is up this direction. This is out of the first Board of Commissioners. We want to describe its findings. This is Survey 2104, which is the one we just looked at. It says here, Mary Valley, claiming 1,658 orphans of land situated on the River Vause, District of St. Genevieve, produces the record of a concession from Trudeau, Lieutenant Governor, dated August 13, 1796, record of a plat dated August 15, 1796, certified September 1st, 1797. This is December 10th, 1811. Present was a full board. It is the opinion of the board that this claim ought not be confirmed.
Whoa. What did you say, an arpent is 0.85 of an acre?
Right, but there's a little difference between the French and Spanish
Yeah,
orphans.
0.84 or something like that too.
Marie Louise Valley Villars. This is that large land grant down here next to the county line. And one of the criteria for the first Board of Commissioners was no more than 800 orphans. That was their rule. So anything much over that, it was pretty well automatic. They were not going to confirm. So here's Marie Louise Valley Villars claiming 7,000 56 armpits of land situated on the Saline District of St. Genevieve. Produces a record of, or copy of a concession certified by Diego Maxwell on the 18th of February. The concession was dated 17th of September 1796. The record of a plat dated February of 1803, certified January 3rd of 1804. On December the 10th, 1811, present with the full board. It was the opinion of the board that this claim ought not be confirmed.
And there was no other recourse then? Is it?
Well,
is it
then the
denied?
second board of commissioners came in,
Oh,
and then after that, it was, as far as I understand, it was lawsuits.
What did they, if they supposed to get 800 and they had 1,000, what do you do? Chop one end off?
Well, here's one from Francis Valley, and it is, God, I wish I could read that. The plat itself ain't much better than this, so. This is what we had looked at earlier. This is Marie Valley Bars. This is Francis Valley's. This one here, and here's Francis Valley again. This is a survey 3060. This is Marie Valley Valars's. We just read her decision from the Board of Commissioners. That's this right in here, where it ought not be confirmed. This is the survey she probably presented to the Board of Commissioners.
Is that in relation to the fifth meridian then again?
These? No.
Oh,
The fifth principal meridian,
okay, those.
the fifth principal meridian didn't come in until 1850.
Yeah.
These are all 1700 surveys.
Right.
This is Francis Valley strip that was in between the two big ones.
Oh.
It is 1,000 orphans, and they accepted it.
Well, politics there.
Was it about money? The US government's wanting to sell the land,
Well,
But if
this is long, well,
but if you give it to them before, they can't sell it,
right.
because it was already given to them. That's why they put the limit on it.
I would guess so. It's a good reason.
Yeah.
Those surveys were French surveys originally. Did they use chains and compasses to get there too, or?
They use compasses, but, you know, I don't really know what they use to measure an arpent. I'm gonna have to dig into that. Once again, Francis Valley. This is survey 3015. That's this one down here by the county line. It's 7,056 orphans and it's 6,000 some acres.
85% of that.
I have that transcribed.
Yeah.
What's in brown here in gold, this is what the US surveyed. What's in black come off of the French survey. Based on the government's notes, they started here. This D indicated a post from which a walnut tree. The A's, iron stakes or posts. So the US government started here, they ran here, which is over 3 miles. 3 miles, 3 miles. They closed back into here within 39 feet. So were they following the French survey? They had to. So here at C, well, we don't know what C was, but at B, made good of stones. So. Here's a French survey, Pascal Dextony. You can see the detail of it. That spring there is on mom's ground. It's a big hole in the wall. Water comes gushing out of it. It's never dried up. Supposedly there's fish come out of there that were in Ballsworth's Pond on
32?
Geezy Road. Yeah. This is the cave explorers over here. They were in there, and they were also in a couple other holes. But it amazes me the detail.
Yeah.
This is survey 2880. This is up by Bloomsdale. This is top of the hill. This is the establishment. This would be Florida Core Creek. I couldn't get this on there any other way. This is down by St. Mary. This is the River Bause. This was the Mississippi River. Highway 61 comes down through here now. St. Mary is here. This is 7,760 arpents. I show this because, well, J Road would come across here. The old Saline, that would be where all the salt springs were. I like this because it shows the house, it shows smoke coming out of the chimney, and it shows somebody standing in the doorway.
So that was the river running right down there at that time.
Yeah, yeah, which is now, you know, the slough that's,
Yeah.
This is the US survey of the previous slide. St. Mary's down here, this is the River Bause. They don't show the house. 61 would come down through here, and then J Road would take off this way, and 55 would run down this way. Again, this would be Francis Valley, 7,000 arpents. This would be Marie Valley, Valars, 7,000 arpents, and then this little strip in here was Francis Valley's as well. Talked earlier about witness trees. This is a copy of their notes. They went north between sections 21 and 20, or 22 and 23, township 35 north, range 7 east. This is down by Ava, west of Kaufman. Yeah, Avon. They went north at 1504, they hit a black oak, 40 chains, set of posts, marked witness trees, 59 chains, they hit a brook, 12 lengths wide, ran southeast. At 62 chains, 50 lengths of brook, 10 lengths wide, ran southeast. 64 chains and 4 lengths, they hit a hickory tree, 10 inches. At 80 chains, they set a post for section corners 14, 15, 22, and 23. From which a cedar, 10 inches in diameter, bears south 50 degrees east, 45 lengths. White oak, 8 inches in diameter, bears north 15, west 39 lengths. That's the white oak.
What's the tree?
That's the tree.
And there's your witness tag.
This is the stone. That was the corner.
So that tree lasts for a
4 or
while.
5 inches there.
This is the tree. I got a rubber band because the bark wants to fall off.
Yeah, hold it up.
And they call this a window scar, and the reason because when you hack into a tree, it wants to heal itself. So if you hack into it, it wants to grow in from the sides, and it'll meet, and you'll most of the time see a seam. In this instance, what happened was the interior of the tree decayed away before the tree could heal. So what it did is it curled in on itself.
You say that stone down there was,
Yeah.
that's a lot bigger than 4 by 10 or something like that.
Well, the camera was right next to the stone, taking a picture of,
Oh,
it wasn't, but I think it was like 4 inches by 8
oh,
inches.
I was looking at it to be 2 foot.
But that's a close-up of the tree itself, and I took that out of it. In 2019, Henry Elliott was doing the survey work out east of Weingarten Internment Camp. He was surveying the sections. We were doing some work a couple miles east of there. And I was getting all the notes and stuff together, and I noticed that he was in that area like the 13th of January. And I knew there was a living tree out here by Weingarten. So I looked at those notes. And on January the 19th, 1819, Henry Elliott set this corner. And he marked a witness tree. So January the 19th, 2019, 200 years later, myself and the gentleman that works with me, Myron Nager, went out there, we set the compass up, there's the tree. 200 years later.
What is it?
Yeah, I think now it's a 36 inch.
Something like a 3-inch white oak.
No, it was an 8 or 10 or something.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So we set the compass up, there's the tree. Took the chain out, measured over to the tree, kind of reenacted what they may have done that day. And I wrote an article that was published in the Surveyor's magazine. And there was only one other corner that I know of that was visited 200 years later. We went down to the first corner that was set in Missouri. 200 years, back in 2015, we went down to it, visited it.
From your central point that was set in Arkansas?
Yeah, from the 5th Principal Meridian, that was the first, we went and visited the first corner in Missouri on the 5th Principal Meridian.
That was all right, huh?
What county was that in?
I don't even remember. It was a pretty good drive. Henry Elliott, like I said earlier, surveyed most of Perry County, St. John County, St. Francis, and so on and so forth. And at times they did have a little bit of humor. Every half mile they were supposed to make note of anything worth mentioning. Salt Springs, creeks, whatever. At the end of this mile, he puts down here, this line, steep, stony ridges, timber, scrub oak, nothing more worth describing. This mile, he says, this is steep, stony ridges, good for nothing. Nothing here fit for man nor beast.
Is that in the Ozarks?
No, this is north of Sugar Bottom Road.
He had it right.
That's it, that's all I got. Any questions?
Lots of,
You find any cotton rocks?
yeah.
I don't know if I
Remember them?
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. We were serving out the Forest Service years ago, and I found these out in the woods. These are chaining pins.
Wow.
All I know is that day they measured wrong. They weren't counting the right amount of chaining pins.
Yeah, well. Hey, Jared, to your credit too, the western part of St. John County was a little crook in there, wasn't it?
Oh. Here we go. In the fall of the year, we used to have rendezvous. We went out to Taney County, that's where this came from. We also went down Hercules Glade. It's Fort National Forest in the southwest part of the county, or the southwest part of the state. And what we would do is, we would do reenactment. We would get a compass and chain out. We would go out looking for a section corner, and we would measure through the woods, trying to relive what maybe they did back then. And it was really interesting. So at one point, we would walk into a corner looking for it, and over there, they usually set a stone and 4 witness trees. And we would go in looking for it, and as the story goes, whoever finds the corner, what we would do is, we would cut into the tree, see if we could find the evidence, because they made notes. This was a quarter corner, this was at 40 chains. Another 40 chains would have been a full mile, which would have been the section corner. He made notes that he scribed 1-4 in the tree. So we cut into it. And we did it to demonstrate how you can cut into a tree without destroying the evidence and retrieve the evidence. So this corner was set in 1848. It was an 8-inch post oak. And in 1998 is when I found it, it was a 12-inch post oak. So it grew 4 inches. And there is cedar tree, I seen a cedar tree down there. They walked up to it and they described numbers in it, and it's never healed over.
No. How old was this one?
This was marked in 1848,
And you got it?
1898, or 1998. 150 years later.
Yeah, well, that did grow much. Now, how high did they do those? Head high or chest?
We figure it, there was nothing in instructions that ever stated that.
Because they're
But
old.
we figured, you know, however tall that person was cutting into the tree.
Yeah,
Because they weren't gonna spend any time bending over or trying to.
right. Ones I've seen that were like you're saying, they're about good chopping knives.
Can you see
You could come up and take a look, and they used a knife because you could see the knife blade in here.
Yeah.
And as the tree heals, let's see, it will fill in the indentations. So here's the one, the slash, and you can see part of the four. And this is an instance where you don't see a seam.
So that was 150 years old.
Well, it was older than that because it was an 8-inch when they marked it.
8 inches.
And the only thing you could really see is you look on the side of it, you kind of see a little bit of a bulge, but that's it.
How'd you know how deep to go and cut that out?
Well, we knew it was an 8-inch tree. We figured it was about chest high. So when we cut it down, we measured 8 inches and start chipping away at it. And this area here is like a scar on your skin. This is actually stronger than the rest of the tree. This will last longer than, you know, any other part of the tree. Questions?
As far as Missouri, you have told me this, so where does the fifth principal meridian go through?
It's pretty close to Potosi. Because you get into, if you get into a part of the western part of Washington County, you get into township, or you get into range 1 west.
Okay. And I can't think of that, what's that water? It was a river, goes here, there's rocks all through it.
Elephant Rock. Elephant Rock.
No, not that.
Johnson Shut-In?
Yeah, Johnson Shut. Is it close to that?
I'd have to pull the map up to see where it's at.
Another hand.
Star too.
Magic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you taking advantage of the St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center. Again, if you're not a member already, you can apply tonight's admission to a membership. Ellie will take care of you down at the gift shop.